Hello friends, and welcome back to Can We Fix It? Someday I'm going to show you the actual chaos that goes into me trying to set up for an episode because it's comical. Also, this is the second try on this because I forgot that after having my son, my alcohol tolerance is way lower than it used to be. So I drank like half of my daiquiri and tried to film an episode last night, and it did not go well. So today I learned nothing. I spiked my coffee, and we're gonna try again. I want to also start by saying I'm gonna try very hard to use less F words. I have had several requests from listeners to use less F words. And I'm gonna be honest, there was like a pendulum swing after I lost the election where my language just escalated because I spent the last 4 years not being allowed to start every debate with like, listen here, motherfuckers, which is what I wanted to do 90% of the time. So now that I am out of that culture, I will admit that my language is much saltier than it used to be. So I'm trying to find the middle ground here. That being said, today's episode is full of salt. Today's episode, in honor of Thanksgiving, we're gonna do an ungrateful episode. And it's called the Ungrateful episode, both because I am going to seem incredibly ungrateful, and because I want people to understand what a thankless job being a public servant really can be. So, cheers. Let's get right into it. I want to tell you guys about some of the weirdest calls that I've ever received as a representative. And now let me preface this by saying, you know, a lot of people don't understand how it works. A lot of people don't really know what their representative does on a day-to-day basis. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to be drafting legislation. So if you want to call and ask me to vote no on the Paw Sox Stadium, or if you want to call and ask me to vote for a raise on minimum wage, those things are all within the purview of my job. What I can't do a whole lot about is like potholes, street signs, like that's more city council stuff. And I don't usually pass things along. If I can do them myself, I'll do them myself. But that's just not what your representative is here for. I happen to live in a fairly needy community. A lot of us work minimum wage jobs. A lot of us, you can, qualify for federal assistance. And so I did spend a lot of my time fielding calls from people who like couldn't get their SNAP card, and whose, kids were gonna go hungry. And always I would, jump on those and come deliver groceries or gift cards or whatever they needed to get them through, and facilitate the process of them getting their SNAP cards. I did, however, have some calls that there was really nothing that I could do about them, right? So my first community meeting, I have a woman who gets up and tells me that there is black market pigeon racing going on in the neighborhood. I'm like, is pigeon racing illegal? Like, does it have to be black? I don't know enough about the market for pigeon racing and why it's so deep underground, whatever. But she's going into detail about how, they bet money and they race these pigeons and it, was terrible for the city. And I'm going to be honest, I did not 100% believe her because that sounds crazy. And I was telling one of my neighbors about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, pigeon racing. Like, what am I supposed to even do about that? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, how do I know which pigeons are like regular street pigeons and which pigeons are like trained pigeons? Second of all, like, do you want me to catch and release them? Like, they can fly back home. Am I supposed to stand with like a plastic owl and just scare all pigeons from the premises? Like, I didn't feel like I had a lot of options here. And my neighbor starts like looking around, and I was like, what do you know that I don't? And he goes, there is pigeon racing. The boys, you know, some of the guys in the neighborhood, we get together at night, we drink, and we bet on pigeon racing. And like, I still maintain that there was nothing that I could actually do about it. Like, and also, do I want to? Like, that's such an innocuous crime. It's not like they're breeding pigeons. They're just like taking pigeons that already exist and employing them. If anything, that's entrepreneur spirit, and I like that. Now I want to tell you guys about, there were 3 votes this year that I know I lost. And, you know, at some point you just have to admit that there was nothing that you were going to do to make somebody happy. I had a constituent who took an emergency trip to another state because her mother was ill and she needed to go take care of her. And I, you know, drove this individual to the airport. I helped her pack all her stuff. I brought it to the postmaster with her and had it all shipped to her mom's house so that she would have it when she got there. Like, whole nine. She left for maybe 3 or 4 months. And when she came back, told me that she was never voting for me again because I had never called her in all the time that she had been there to check up on her. And as a friend, yes, I absolutely felt like I had let her down. As a representative, that's a tough ask. There are 15,000 constituents in my district, and I don't know that I can be reasonably expected to remember every single one's health conditions or the condition of their parents or what state they're in, or just, that seemed unfair. I had another person who called. She was having trouble in the assisted living facility that she was living in and asked me if she could move in with me. And I told her that that was not possible. And she got very angry with me, and she told me that she was going to vote for my opponent because I wouldn't help her. And I said, I mean, I'm pretty sure my opponent's not going to let you live with him either, but like, you do you. Like, if that's what it's going to take me to get your vote, like, I can't do that. But my favorite was this reoccurring caller. And I know I haven't named anybody yet, but I will name him Raymond. Raymond. So Raymond's first call to me was that his recycling bin was destroyed and he needed a new one. And by destroyed, it had like a dent in the top and he was not having it. That's an easy enough fix. Problem solved. The next call from Raymond was a little more difficult. His hot water heater broke, and he wanted me to come and fix it. And I was like, Raymond, I don't know how to do that. I don't have those skills. And he said, well, the other representative used to fix my stuff all the time. And to be fair, 2 reps back was John McCauley, who in his free time was a plumber. And frequently worked on people's pipes and stuff because he was a plumber in Providence, which I explained to Raymond. And I was like, and I am not a plumber. Do you see how that would be a problem? I can't help you. Also, he was doing that in his capacity as his plumber job. That wasn't like part of the rep deal. Like, that wasn't, those 2 things weren't together. So he was very angry with me for that. But I hooked him up with a couple of plumbers and was like, good luck, friend. And the final call that I got from Raymond, and I say final because I stopped answering after that. Because at this point, like, there's nothing I can do to win your vote. And it was always the vote that was hanging in the balance. Not necessarily with every situation. Like, I don't care if you are unregistered. If you need help, like, you will get help. It's the people that I'm specifically thinking of who would hold the vote over my head. Like, if you don't help me pay my rent, I'm not voting for you again, which, like, feels pretty blackmail-y to me. Anyway, last call I got from Raymond was his Cox bill was too high, and he wanted me to A, call Cox and find out why, and B, convince them to charge him less money on his Cox bill. And just so we're clear, that's not a rep's job. That's not a city councilor's job. That's not any public official's job. It is nobody's job to call and talk down your bills. And when I told him that that wasn't going to work, he left me 3 more voicemails about it. And there's a reason this is called the Ungrateful episode. I think that it is perfectly reasonable to withhold your vote because of the way that your rep votes on the floor. For you to say this person's politics do not align, and therefore I am not going to vote for them. But you can't expect the unreasonable and then punish somebody when you don't get it. And I know that a lot of reps get weird calls. One of my last calls was from a woman who was angry because her neighbor had a pool. That's the complaint, by the way. The pool didn't, like, leak into her basement, but it might. The pool wasn't, like, infested with crocodiles. Like, it was just that her neighbor had a pool, and she didn't like that. And she didn't think that that was okay. And she wanted me to do something about it because she'd already called the city, and they'd been like, yeah, that's not illegal. We can't. And she's convinced that it is illegal, just so we're clear. She's not convinced that it should be illegal, and she's asking people. She's convinced that nobody will help her because they're all angry with her and not because she's wrong. So the basic gist of this is that politicians are people. They are not miracle workers. And while they can do good things, you have to be cognizant of what you're asking. One of my opponents went around on the doors and told everybody that he was going to get a water park installed in our district. And I don't even understand how that would be part of your representative job unless you're going to ask for, like, a legislative grant. Like, that's just, like, that's a thing that you promise that, like, you shouldn't promise that. You don't have any authority to do that. Or, you know, people who are like, oh, the city services and, like, trash day and stuff like that. And you're like, that's not what we do here. That's a different job. So I think that overall people just need to be better educated about what their individual elected officials do. But at the end of the day, we also have to recognize that some people are going to be ungrateful no matter how far above and beyond you go for them. Raymond. Anywho. I hope that none of you saw your families at Thanksgiving. I know that sounds cruel, but it's the literal plague. I actually have worked out how I'm going to see my mom and dad. My plan is to get myself a COVID test the week before Christmas and quarantine with my tiny human until Christmas Day, like not leaving the apartment. And then Christmas Day, we will have been quarantining for, 10 to 12 days or whatever. I will have gotten my results back by then, and we can, like, go ahead and see Ema and Grampy in person. That's the plan. Plan ahead, right? If you want to, be safe and not sorry. Also, Uprise RI has made all of the Can We Fix It stuff super easy to access on the website. So if you are behind on any episodes, feel free to go and catch up there. Also, please go to patreon.com/Can We Fix It. You can either become a patron or not. All of this stuff is available publicly regardless. But on Patreon, we have polls for upcoming episodes. I want you guys to start providing more feedback. As I mentioned, like the setting up of this is very low budget, but I'm working on getting better audio quality for the phone calls and stuff like that. I promise I am hearing your comments. So wash your hands, be a good neighbor, and thank you for listening.